In time, you will learn I am not your enemy.
Hi, I'm Rodney Donahue, and today I'm going to talk with you about my favorite television show, Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. This episode is going to focus on the 5 most underrated episodes of Star Trek: Deep Space Nine.
I suppose the question we have to ask ourselves is whether or not that perception is inaccurate.
I have a variety of questions that I want to ask for each episode that we're going to discuss. I want to talk about what happens in the episode, where the episode is ranked, why I think that the episode is rated as low as it is. I want to talk about why I think the episode should be rated higher, and I want to talk about any great moment that occurs in the episode. And we're going to start with the collaborator.
And that's why you can never be allowed to set foot on Bajor again, because if you do, it would dishonor the memory of every person you sentenced to death.
What happens in the collaborator?
Tell me what happened.
In the collaborator, 2 religious leaders are competing for their planet's religious leadership. In one corner, you have Bareil. Bareil is the obvious choice to be the spiritual leader on Bajor, while in the other corner you have Wynn, who is an unscrupulous underdog that nobody, including the audience, likes.
Thank you, Vedic Bareil, for reminding us how the sacred text can be so easily misinterpreted.
Wynn ends up recruiting Bareil's girlfriend Kira to investigate whether or not Bareil was a collaborator with the Cardassians.
And I believe the prophets have chosen you to help me find it.
I'll find out the truth. Don't worry about that.
To make a great story short, I'll cut to the chase and tell you that Kira learns Bareil's secret.
You killed Kaiopaka's son.
So he ends up pulling out of the election. Wynn is elected the spiritual leader, but then Kira learns the actual truth.
She was the collaborator, wasn't she?
She sacrificed her own son to save 1,000 people.
And Bareil was simply covering for her in order to preserve her memory.
I had to protect her.
Where is this episode rated on IMDb? This episode is rated number 129 out of 173 episodes.
How can that be?
Why do I think this episode is rated so low?
Personally, I find such a perception, however inaccurate, to be most distressing.
I think Star Trek fans voting to rate episodes on IMDb probably dislike episodes that focus on Bajoran's spiritual life. And this episode is the epitome of Bajoran's spiritual life as the Bajorans are working to elect their religious leadership in this episode.
Why not? It's the truth, isn't it?
Why do I think this episode should be rated higher?
Is that why you spent the last 3 days here? Huh? To get my vote?
I think The Collaborator is an expertly orchestrated episode of Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. We get to see Kira's true feelings about Bajoran collaborators who worked with the Cardassians early on in the episode. And when she is confronted with the fact that Bareil might be a Cardassian collaborator, she does not back down. And in fact, she confronts everything with Bareil as honestly as she possibly can.
Did you really believe I wouldn't learn the truth?
In addition, this is the first episode where Wynn attempts to manipulate Kira to get the things that she wants. She's going to do this a couple of times. I know she does it again in Shakaar in the next season. But in this episode, rather than attempt to utilize violence to get what she wants, as she does in The Hands of the Prophets, in this episode, she recruits the person that we like in Major Kira. in order to try to become the new Kai of Bajor.
But I didn't know whom to trust with such a delicate assignment. Until now.
What moment stands out in The Collaborator?
What an enlightened philosophy.
As a writer, I'm always focused on what characters want and how far they're willing to go to get what they want. Aristotle called this character delineation. And it's important to delineate character through these questions. Most of us in our daily lives attempt to get what we want in the easiest way possible. We only do things the hard way if we feel as though we have to. And I think the writers deserve a lot of credit for showing how Wynn tries to take the high road first and get what she wants in the easiest way possible before she takes the underhanded low road and attempts to get what she wants by using politically manipulative means.
Really?
There's a scene before she recruits Kira where she meets with Benjamin Sisko, who the Bajorans see essentially as their connection with their gods. He is the emissary to the prophets. And so before she even recruits Kira to investigate Bareil, she first goes to Sisko to see if he will become friends with her.
What I have always maintained is that you, emissary, were sent here by the prophets to challenge our long-held beliefs.
And to her surprise, and in a way, to Sisko's surprise, she and Sisko are able to bury the hatchet.
I'm glad you said that.
Now, of course, Sisko decides not to appear with her in front of the Vedic Assembly until after the election of the Kai. He does not want to get in the way of the Bajoran religious leaders.
As a Federation officer, I would never interfere.
Wynn essentially tries to go to him first because she realizes that he would be the easiest way for her to be elected Kai. This lines up with the end of the episode where once Wynn becomes Kai, she doesn't need Sisko anymore, and she tells Kira that actually she doesn't have time to meet with Sisko.
And tell Commander Sisko I must postpone appearing with him before the assembly. At least for now.
So this is a wonderful moment, and it's my favorite moment in the episode when Wynn goes to meet with Sisko. I think that it's expertly written and that The Collaborator is easily one of the most underrated episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
But perhaps I shouldn't be so surprised.
We have become fat and lazy and dull.
My wife told me something along those lines just last week.
Another underrated episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine is Paradise.
Sounds like it took a crash landing for her to find her paradise.
What happens in Paradise? In Paradise, Sisko and O'Brien beam down to a planet and their equipment won't work. They run into a colony from a ship that crashed for the same reason. In this episode, Sisko finds himself at odds with the leader of the colony. She wants him to forget about his ship and any hope of rescue.
Let's not bring up the Starfleet rescue party again. Until they come, if they come, you'll have to do things our way.
And Sisko, as a model Starfleet officer, he wants to contact his ship and figure out a way to utilize their technology. She ends up punishing him, first with work,
Ben will be standing watch tonight.
and then by putting him into a box. And because he's awesome, O'Brien ends up determining that the leader was causing the technology to malfunction.
Do you know why this phaser is working now? An artificially created duonetic field.
In the end, Sisko, O'Brien, the anti-technology leader, and her son all beam up to the runabout and leave the colony so that the leader can answer for her crimes. Where is this episode rated? This episode is rated number 150 out of 173.
I get the distinct impression she expects us to be here for a while.
Why do I think this episode is rated so low? This episode actually feels like an episode from the original series where two characters, a commander and a technical expert, beam down to a planet into a nightmare scenario where they cannot contact the ship above.
Lieutenant, re-establish communication.
Aye, sir. There's no response, Mr. Scott.
And those on board the other ship, in this case a runabout far away, they have to find a way to rescue the two people on the planet. And so there are a lot of parallels between Paradise and multiple episodes of Star Trek the original series.
Would you like me to massage you with it?
In addition, I don't think that audiences really like the character of Alexis, even though I think that she is a wonderful foil for Benjamin Sisko.
That's the first core behavior I've seen from you since you arrived.
Why do I think this episode should be rated higher?
Believe me, I'm not expecting some sudden miraculous conversion. Change will come by itself if you're open to it.
I personally find the stakes in Paradise compelling. Sisko and O'Brien wind up surrounded by anti-technology fanatics that are very much like a cult. In fact, even when Joseph questions the leader, when he attempts to justify O'Brien's actions,
I'm sure he only wanted to get to the medical equipment which might have saved Meg's life.
Even he is unwilling to face the penalties of society or really stand up to Alexis in any way.
Our very own Joseph defending what he knows is wrong.
I think that since Alexis attempted to send a runabout hurtling into a star, I think that it shows that she's determined not just to keep her society from being found out, but to keep Sisko and O'Brien there as well. I really think that she believes Sisko and O'Brien will be wonderful additions to their community.
Two more strong, healthy men, Vinod. That could mean an awful lot to this community.
This episode also has a great performance by Steve Vinovic as Joseph. He's so friendly and accommodating and just a wonderful character in the episode that at the very end, when he finally steps up and leads the community, we know that the colony is going to be in good hands because he's a character that we respect and that we relate to.
Whatever Alexis may be guilty of, she did give us our community.
What is the best moment in Paradise? The best moment in Paradise is when Sisko refuses to take off his uniform and decides to return to the punishment box. It is a powerful moment, well directed, and has wonderful Star Trek Deep Space Nine horns playing in the background.
This one isn't going to make it.
Not because of me.
But you have your doubts.
No doubt the most controversial episode that's on my underrated list will be Playing God.
Uh-oh.
What happens in Playing God? A Trill initiate comes to DS9 for field training with Jadzia Dax. Jadzia starts out determined to befriend this Trill initiate named Arjun.
Speak up for yourself while you're here.
And she wants to avoid the adversarial nature of the training process the way that she experienced it.
You don't know what he did to me.
I know you made it through the program.
No thanks to him.
But as she learns more about Arjun, she is forced to confront him and his inadequacies.
I'm not sure I understand.
No, I don't think you do.
Where Jadzia had prepared herself for joining, Arjun is not adequately preparing himself. He feels betrayed, and she feels terrible for confronting him. When she asks him to help her solve a problem, they work together as a team.
This is going to look very good on your initiate record, Arjun.
Arjun leaves knowing what he needs to do to better prepare, and Jadzia feels better knowing how she can best aid initiates in future field training.
I'm not Curzon.
Where is this episode rated? This is the lowest rated episode that I plan to discuss, and it is rated 162 out of 173 episodes.
I don't see it.
Why is this episode rated so low? I get the sense that fans of DS9, individuals willing to rate episodes of DS9 on IMDB, are not fans of episodes about the Dax symbiote. Here are ratings of some similar episodes. Facets, 115. Dax, 121. Rejoined, 131. Invasive Procedures, 142. And Equilibrium, 148. Even TNG's The Host, though the Trill are very different in it, even that episode is rated 142 out of 176. This kind of gives me the impression that they don't really care for episodes about the Dax symbiote. Facets for me was a contender as an underrated episode, but as this is kind of my top 5 underrated episodes, I think Plain God is much more underrated at 162 than Facets at 115. I think the subplot in which Voles on the station accidentally forced Dax and Arjun to work together might also be a reason that the episode is rated so low. Also, Arjun is kind of annoying. He's kind of an annoying character. I know that Jadzia kind of makes an apology for this in that Trill initiates are supposed to be arrogant, but I could see why people would find Arjun to be an annoying character. I do want to take a moment and mention Blood Oath, because Blood Oath is ranked in one of the top 70 episodes of Deep Space Nine. I don't know where it is exactly on the list at the time of this recording. I can put that right here. But I do want to point out that I think that people like Blood Oath more because it has to do with the 3 Klingons brought back from the original series, and that they all attempt to invade a location and kill a guy and eat his heart.
Look upon your executioners, killer of children!
Rather than episodes about the Dax symbiote and Curzon Dax.
Don't be silly. Come in. I'll only be a minute. It always takes me longer to get ready as a female.
Why should Plain God be rated higher? Plain God is a very fun episode.
You're in love with a double girl?
Wait a minute. You said Chief O'Brien told you that.
No, I didn't.
Jadzia wrestles.
When's my rematch?
She sings with the fat Klingon. She tosses a vole.
Arjun, here.
And she plays Tongo.
It's the ears.
Before Plain God, Jadzia Dax is boring in every episode. And in this episode, Jadzia becomes fun and relatable.
Really? I've never seen a Cardassian Vol.
This episode has a good internal conflict for Jadzia.
It's not my job to confront him.
Isn't it?
That manifests itself as an external conflict with Arjun.
I'm worried you're not preparing yourself for being joined.
And so for these reasons, I think that Playing God should be rated much higher than one of the bottom 12 episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
We're never gonna get through it.
I have 1,000 ideas of how to defile your remains.
The fourth underrated episode that I'm going to talk about is Body Parts.
Garrick, if you're in here, I'm not gonna be surprised!
What happens in Body Parts? In Body Parts, Quark believes he is going to die, so he sells his remains on the internet to a very high bidder.
That's 1,000,000 slips.
When he learns that he in fact is not going to die, he tries to get out of the contract, but the Ferengi who bought his corpse expects the goods to be delivered.
I paid 500 bars of latinum for your desiccated remains, and I'm here to collect.
Quark tries to be a good Ferengi and figure out a way to die. He even hires someone to kill himself. In the end, Quark breaks the contract, losing all of his possessions as well as his relationship with any other Ferengi.
And no Ferengi may do business with that man!
But the crew of DS9 steps in and they help him out, showing that Quark in fact does have assets.
I shouldn't have to make appointments to be with my own child.
The subplot of Body Parts is also very important to allow the actress who played Kira to be pregnant in Season 5. Keiko O'Brien, who is pregnant, is injured in a shuttle accident, and as chance would have it, the only suitable womb on the runabout is Kira's.
Miles, what are we gonna do?
Where is this episode rated? This is the highest rated episode I'm going to discuss. This episode on IMDB is rated 90 of 173. Why do I think that this episode is rated so low? If fans of Deep Space Nine dislike Bajoran's spiritual episodes, they dislike Ferengi episodes slightly less.
I've based my entire life around these rules. How can I just walk away from them?
Episodes like Rules of Acquisition, Bar Association, Family Business, and Business as Usual are all rated higher than The Collaborator, but they're all lower than this episode.
It means that I'm not exploiting and cheating people at random. I'm doing it according to a specific set of rules.
I would also argue that really high-rated episodes about Ferengi, like Little Green Men, The Magnificent Ferengi, and House of Quark, are less about Ferengi and more about those situations. Roswell and time travel, a hostage negotiation, and Klingon culture.
What do you expect me to do?
Why should Body Parts be rated higher than 90?
I don't know what you're talking about.
This episode has several of my favorite moments in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Brunt has one of my favorite lines in the entire series.
I have 1,000 ideas of how to defile your remains. Want to hear my favorites?
This episode takes a serious subject, death, and it exploits that subject for comedy. I love when Rom thinks that Quark is going to hire Garrick to kill Brunt, and he calls it a bold, uncompromising move.
You're going to have Brunt killed. I didn't think you had it in you, brother. What a bold, uncompromising move.
It's great when Quark discovers that he can sue the doctor for misdiagnosis.
It means I get to sue Dr. Orfax for malpractice.
I also love when Garrick kills Quark, and then Quark and Garrick have a conversation over Quark's corpse. A corpse on stage is funny.
Did you hear that sound of bone snapping?
The subplot is also interesting. If Kira is housing the O'Brien's baby, how does Kira fit into their lives?
I don't want to impose. Nerys, you're having our baby. You're family now.
That's right.
What is the best moment in Body Parts?
Do your job. Take my assets. Revoke my Ferengi business license.
The best moment in Body Parts comes at the very end when Quark threatens Brunt. Quark takes the punishment that he deserves. He is excommunicated from Ferengi society and takes the punishment. But then he threatens Brunt.
And if I ever see you walk into my bar again,
Yes.
you won't walk out.
It is a moment that is perfectly acted by Armin Shimmerman and Jeffrey Combs.
I knew it.
I know you're just playing for time until you can get to your friends. Julian, Dax, Captain Sisko. I know they'll all want to help you.
The Assignment is easily the most underrated episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I've done what you asked.
That's terrific, Miles. We'll talk later.
This episode is rated number 111 out of 173, but this is one of my favorite episodes. I love everything about this episode. It is perfect. I tried to cut short some of the statements about my other episodes for time. I have no intention of doing that with The Assignment at all. So if you have not seen it, I suggest that you watch it before you hear me talk about it, because I'm going to ruin everything in the entire episode. It is Season 5, Episode 5, and it is just magnificent.
I don't understand.
What happens in The Assignment? A lot.
God help me.
The Assignment has two stories that ultimately converge, so I'll go through the episode rather than divide the plot in two. The Assignment opens with Rom ending his shift with the night crew, where he literally has the crap job.
A good waste extraction system is important. Imagine where we'd be without one.
O'Brien's wife, Keiko, returns from Bajor, and she tells him directly,
I have taken possession of your wife's body. I will hold it hostage until you do everything I tell you to, accurately and without question.
she's being possessed by an alien that will kill Keiko if he doesn't do everything she says. The possessor demonstrates its power, and O'Brien agrees to her terms. First, the alien comes up with a test to ensure O'Brien's loyalty.
Look, no more tests, no more games. Just tell me what you want done.
Then it gives him the real work. O'Brien has to complete several tasks throughout the station. At the beginning of the real task, O'Brien gets cold feet and seeks out his friends, but the alien anticipates this move and injures Keiko on the promenade. At the start of O'Brien's shift, Rom fills in for one of the sick crewmen. O'Brien distributes the workload, then he begins sabotaging a host of unrelated systems.
I better get going. I'm falling behind schedule.
He does not think he can get the work done in the time set by the alien, and at that moment,
Chief!
Rom suddenly interrupts him. Since none of the engineers want anything to do with Rom,
Ferengi can be very focused, especially when no one bothers to talk to them.
Rom gets all of his work done quickly because he doesn't socialize. O'Brien recruits him as an ally, and they split up the sabotaging work. Eventually, Dax determines that someone is sabotaging systems.
We have a saboteur on the station.
And O'Brien sets up Rom as the fall guy. O'Brien visits Rom in his cell, and Rom asks why O'Brien wants to kill the aliens in the wormhole.
Why are we trying to kill the wormhole aliens?
The systems seemed unrelated, but they are designed to kill the wormhole aliens by their enemies who are possessing Keiko.
Everyone has enemies, even the prophets.
That's right.
O'Brien finishes the work, and he and Keiko, possessed by the alien, board a runabout to watch the station destroy the wormhole aliens. But he positions the runabout so the station kills the alien in Keiko rather than those in the wormhole. In the end, O'Brien and Keiko get to live happily ever after, and Rom is promoted to the day shift for all of his hard work.
I'm not on the night shift anymore.
Rom and his crewmates celebrate. I love The Assignment.
Right.
So why do I think The Assignment is rated so low? This episode is a perfect storm of DS9 lore that people probably don't like. You've got a Ferengi lead character in Rom. You've got the first episode featuring the Pa Wraiths, which are the enemies of the prophets.
Did you see any Pa Wraiths?
Pa Wraiths?
In the fire caves.
Thus creating a Bajoran religious battle in a spiritual world. You have two acting moments by Rosalind Chow that people might question. But I love Rosalind Chow, and I think she's deliciously evil in this episode, so
You were gonna tell them about me.
that doesn't bother me.
I know everything your wife knows, and she knows you.
Why should this episode be rated higher?
All cognitive reflexes would cease in 2.1 seconds.
The Assignment is filled with nothing but great moments, so I'm not even going to try to figure out which one is the best. I'm just going to move from beginning to end and talk about how every scene has something great in it. O'Brien at the beginning is nervous because Bashir ruined Keiko's bonsai trees. So when we see them together for the first time, she's eating the chocolates that O'Brien brought to beg for her forgiveness.
You know your wife well, Miles, but she knows you even better.
The scene between O'Brien and Keiko in the turbolift is one of my favorites in the series. The alien inside of her explains all the contingencies running through O'Brien's mind.
The captain may even allow you to do what I'm asking, at least until someone figures out a way to catch me in some sort of stasis field or some other clever device you're already dreaming up.
I love that Keiko being possessed by aliens is not a mystery that we have to find out later. Instead, we're given all this information at the beginning, and we're not treated like children. There are mysteries, like what is possessing Keiko, and what is it that the Keiko possessor wants? And we find those out in due time. We learn them when we need to, but we don't have too many questions at the beginning because we're given so many answers. It's a wonderfully written scene between Keiko and O'Brien in the turbo lift.
And you know what? It might work. You might be able to stop me.
This episode includes Chief O'Brien's birthday party, which Keiko planned and the alien wants to go through with in order to keep up appearances. And there's this wonderful moment where the alien Keiko brings O'Brien the birthday cake. They exchange this look and he blows out the candles, and both the alien Keiko and O'Brien both know exactly what he wished for, and it's just a perfect moment. It's perfectly written, expertly directed, and wonderfully acted.
The Caparl was a huge success.
Rosalind Chow has several great moments. The airlock.
Forget it, Miles. They're just plans.
The turbo lift. The birthday cake. Pretending to seduce O'Brien in bed, then poking fun at his needs right after.
Another weakness of you corporeal life forms, your need for physical intimacy.
I love when Rosalind Chow's alien Keiko pulls Molly's hair, brushing it in front of O'Brien on the comm system. She asks O'Brien for a kiss in front of Bashir in the infirmary. Rosalind Chow as the alien possessing Keiko is absolutely amazing.
Have us face the temple. The blast will last only a fraction of a second. They'll all be dead before they even see it.
I love when O'Brien sells out Rom so he can continue his sabotage of the systems. Rom has a great reaction to O'Brien because he's been the guy set up before by his brother Quark.
I'm Quark's brother. I know the role.
Rom and O'Brien have a great discussion in the holding area where Rom helps O'Brien see what's happening, that he's helping an alien murder the prophets.
They were prophets. False prophets. They were cast out of the temple, exiled to the caves.
Probably my favorite scene is when Odo finally catches O'Brien. He confronts O'Brien about all of the systems issues, and O'Brien has an answer for everything.
We had a matrix systems failure yesterday. Those files were lost. Sorry.
We've had a lot of systems failures recently, haven't we, Chief?
And Odo is wearing him down with question after question after question. And finally, O'Brien just runs out of excuses.
The isolinear chip junction was...
Enough, Chief. You didn't cover your tracks very well.
Odo actually seems a little irritated that O'Brien didn't cover his tracks so well, and O'Brien has probably my favorite acting moment from Colm Meaney in the entire series when he says that he just ran out of time.
I didn't have time. I still don't.
I love everything about The Assignment. It is the most underrated episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I don't like surprises.
And these episodes are, in my opinion, the most underrated episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Why should playing God... Oh, my microphone's going inside my shirt.